Om. Samnyasashramadharmavidhatrim Brahmajnanasudharasadaatrim Sadgururupadharam sarvajñam Amritanandamayim pranamami. Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avataravarishthaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum langhayate girim Yatkripadamaham vande Paramanandamadhavam. Brahmacharya vrati dandi sarva vedanta pandita Srimad Viveka Yogi Mam Prachodayatu Sarvada. Apara Satchit Sukhavari Rashe Yasyormi Matram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananamalayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Jai Jai Shankara Har Har Shankara Jai Jai Shankara Har Har Shankara Jai Jai Shankara Har Har Shankara. Om Namah Shivaya. Last week we could not meet. I had some urgent matters to look at and solve, and so many people thought that I have already stopped this talk series, which is just a fantasy. I'm not going to stop it until I finish the entire Chidakasha Gita by the Divine Master Sadguru Nityananda Bhagavan. So many people are in search of the truth. They think that they need to realize the truth. But when realization actually happens, the first thing that is realized is that we were never ignorant. We were always Satchidananda Swarupa. There was no thing as ignorance. So that is why Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, Naiva Manasam Marga Arjavad. When you inquire in the direct path of self-inquiry, you come to know that there is no mind. You were searching to find the source of the mind and thoughts, and you come to the conclusion, when you realize the truth, that there has never been something called a mind. So mind is something that we attach to. We think that mind is a reality. Sadguru Shri Mata Amritanandamayi Devi Amma compares the mind or the ego to a small bubble, a water bubble. A water bubble is a reality when we look at that, and when you try to touch it, it is non-existent. Like that, the mind also has no real existence. It is a part, a chunk of Maya in everyone. We are supposed to overcome this idea of Maya, which is not there but always has a strong presence, strong influence, and it tries to take us to all the directions uncontrollably, like an unbridled horse, and make us sorrowful, and we suffer out of the mind. So that is why in the Ramayana it is said, Manah eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoh. Mind is the real cause of both bondage and freedom. So Yama Sa Maya, there is a definition. She who is not is Maya, but she who is responsible for the pratiti, for the feeling that the world exists, me, my relatives, my troubles, my pleasures, my enemies, the world as it is. Jnanis say that this is an illusion. But how do we find it out? Bhagavan Nityananda Let's now go to the first sutra and we'll come back to his great leelas when he was present on earth. The first sutra starts like this: Jnanis have no mind. Bhagavan Nityananda, in the first sutra of the Chidakasha Gita, says, Jnanis have no mind. And who is a Jnani? A man who has realized that mind was a fallacy. Mind was a fallacy, and it was to eliminate this fallacy that I've been searching all my life. I have heard a story. Once, darkness went to God and complained that the sun is chasing me wherever I go. The sun is chasing me and driving me away. I feel so disappointed. Don't I have the existence? Don't I have the right to be existent? But the sun is chasing me wherever I go. This guy comes and chases me out and drives me out. I want a solution from you, beloved God. God said, of course, I'll make an arrangement. I'll make your query, your complaint solved in a day. And next day, God called sun to his chamber. God told the sun, why do you chase darkness? Just as you are existent, darkness, night, also has the right to be existent. You are not supposed to go behind him and chase him out wherever he goes. He has a complaint. The sun smiled and said, my dear Lord, you talk about a darkness. You talk about night. I do not know what night is. I have never seen darkness. I have never felt darkness. I have never even recognized what darkness is. I am all light. I do not know anything else. Our status is exactly like this. We think that we are ignorant, we are bound, we are in trouble, we are sorrowful, we are this and that. And at the dawn of enlightenment, the first thing that you realize is that darkness, ignorance, bondage, sorrow were all fallacies, illusions, now gone forever with the dawn of the sun of knowledge, the sun of jnana. So, a jnani is a person who does not know what ajnana is. He is not aware of the presence of ajnana anywhere. So, when the dawn of enlightenment happens to you, you realize that darkness, mind, and illusion all were fallacies of the mind. And the mind dies on its own. So the death of the mind or death of the ego is called realization or enlightenment. So Bhagavan Nityananda says in the first sutra that jnanis have no mind. A jnani does not know what a mind is. Once this happened, a very interesting incident. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi never lies down and sleeps. He never did in his lifetime. After coming to Tiruvannamalai at the age of 16, he started roaming about Tiruvannamalai and at last settled at the foothill of Tiruvannamalai to the south side. And in the ashram, he sits on a couch on his particular position. He sits like this and he never sleeps. He opens his eyes all the time. Whoever comes at any time, 24 hours a day, he is available. He sleeps in an open hole. But one devotee asked Bhagavan, Bhagavan, does a jnani sleep? Bhagavan said, no, there is no sleep for a jnani. But this devotee was very clever and funny. He said, Bhagavan, last night I heard you snoring. You were opening your eyes, you were just keeping awake, but I heard you snore. So snoring happens only in sleep. Bhagavan smilingly replied, I heard it too. There ends the matter. Bhagavan is completely aware of the body and the happenings around him. He is alert. He is not subjugated, or he is not controlled by sleep or ignorance. So this answer is very, very short, crisp, and to the point. He said, I heard it too. I heard my body snoring. So total awareness comes and you realize there is no mind. So Bhagavan Nityananda says, Jnanis have no mind. So we have so many conceptions about meditation, concentration, and nowadays it is a fashion to develop different types of meditations. Focusing on that, focusing on this, breathing like this, breathing like that. So these techniques are created to make you aware that all the techniques are fallacies. Because you are hunting for a dark cat, a black cat inside a dark room which is non-existent. You are searching for a non-existent black cat in a dark room. It is your fallacy, your imagination that the world exists. My enemy exists. My friend exists. But at last you've come to know that I was playing, my own consciousness was playing in different forms and making the appearance of a world. This is called pratiti in Shastras. Pratiti means an illusory existence. We feel that it is very much existent, but in reality it doesn't exist. So mind is also like that. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives us a very great advice. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. The mind can be killed. The mind can be killed by constant practice and detachment. Constant practice here doesn't mean that you do this kind of pranayama, you perform that kind of yajna, you perform this kind of agnihotra, you try to chant this stotra, that stotra. Practice here means the practice of self-inquiry. Focusing on the reality than on the non-reality. Nowadays, most of the sadhanas, most of the spiritual practices include more focus on the non-existent mind and its fantasies. But actually the real practice is to focus on what is reality. That is why Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, when you have anger, just inquire deep within, who has anger? Is it for the body? It is not. Is it in the mind? Is it for you as your reality? You as your reality or existence or being, you are not affected by any emotion that comes to you. All emotions are created on the mental plane, the emotional plane, which is as illusory as a dream. So Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, Bhagavan Nityananda, Sadguru Shri Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, all these great masters tell us that mind is a non-existent thing and we are fighting and grappling with it to surmount it. At the end we become foolishly defeated because mind is a non-reality. When you fight with a non-reality, you get tired. And at the end you may say that all the spiritual practices are just illusory. Instead of saying that your mind is illusory and you've been fighting with something that is non-existent, so many people say that all these spiritual practices are futile and there is no result for it. Actually, The existence as I, the unadulterated reality, the truth, is always existent as Satchidananda Swarupam. But to realize that, Bhagavan Krishna says we need practice and detachment. Practice here are three majorly. One is self-inquiry, which is actually for people who have gone a little deeper into the spiritual practices for lives together and come to know that all the other practices are just aids to get to this practice. So Vichara Marga, the self-inquiry, is called the royal path, the greatest path, or the direct path by the language of Bhagavan Ramana. Marga Arjavad, the Riju Marga, that means the direct path, is self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is not learning anything new. Self-inquiry, so many people are directed by this thought that self-inquiry means reading the Upanishads, reading the Vedas, reading texts about yoga, reading Yoga Vasishtha. So many people have this wrong notion that self-inquiry means to read books or listen to talks. It is not. To assess self-inquiry, the second method, pranayama, definitely helps. Pranayama is not advised by great masters as a true practice, as a real practice, but just an aid to the main practice. Amma and Ramana Maharshi clearly say that pranayama is not needed, just prana nirikshana would do. You sit quietly somewhere and focus your attention naturally to the inhalation and exhalation. You be a witness to it. You don't get involved in active breathing. Instead of that, you just try to focus on the process of breathing. You witness it. You just witness it without any thought. The inhalation and exhalation, you do not inhale for the purpose. Natural inhalation, natural exhalation, you watch it. You watch the process and you remain aloof as a witness, as an impartial witness. And then what happens? Naturally, the mind and the dust of thoughts subside quietly, and then you go to the third practice. The third practice is Bhakti Marga. Bhakti Marga means devotion to a deity or your master. Then you chant mantras, you chant stotras, you cry and pray. All these things can be done. When in a quiet mind, quietened by the practice of pranayama or breath watching, you start chanting Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, or Om Namo Narayanaya. Any mantra of your deity initiated to you by your Guru. And in that initiation process, a particle of his Shakti is transferred to you, transmitted to you, and that mantra definitely pays. And that is called Bhakti Marga. When you concentrate on the mantra all the time of the day, naturally the mind gets fixed to it. And every time a strange thought comes, the mind knows where to go. It sticks to the deity or the master. And after the practice of mantra japa for so many years together, you come to a status where you do not have any strange thoughts. Your mind has reached sattvika, the sattva bhava, chitta shuddhi. And in chitta shuddhi, it is like a free road on a hartal day. Indians know this quite perfectly because hartals happen every time. In a month it happens thrice in India. That is an average. Nowadays it is in lesser count because our Prime Minister works day and night, 24 hours. And people feel ashamed to be lenient or idle because the leader is so active. So people naturally feel that it is a crime to be idle. That is a lakshana, mark of a good leader. In the ashram also, in Amma's ashram also, Amma is the most active person. Always ready, always active. At the same time, blissful. So a disciple, even though he has his mental agitations, chooses not to be idle, because my own master doesn't sleep. My own master doesn't sit idle. My own master shows me the path by actively involving in the world, yet remaining just as a witness, a happy witness to it. So this technique is practiced by so many seekers, and they are the ultimate practice. That means at the end of the practice, Chitta Shuddhi happens. In Chitta Shuddhi, in the calm mind, just as a road on a Hartal day, no vehicle passes. You can see from this end to that end of the street, no commotion. In that silence, in that particular serenity, there naturally arises out of Guru Kripa. It is Guru Kripa alone that leads one to self-inquiry. It is not Purushakara or Purusha Prayatna. It is not the human effort that brings realization. It is the Guru Kripa, the grace of the Master. So out of the grace of the Master, there arises naturally in the disciple a question, the $1 million question. A question arises: am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I my thoughts? Who am I really? What is my existence? And naturally, the pure mind, the mind which has reached Chitta Shuddhi, thoughtless mind, a mind which has gained concentration, naturally turns within. And when that turning happens, the disciple fast goes and hits his goal. And that impetus is called Guru Kripa. That impetus has to come from the divine. You cannot make it. You cannot fake it. You get up early in the morning by 3:30 and chant mantras, do pranayama. You've been doing it for 25 years, yet you are not established in your being. Then it is not your problem. You can do what you can do. Your Purushakara or Prayatna effort can be made. But who can assure you that you hit your goal is only your master. Only the master knows when to turn you or push you within. So that push happens when you make a sincere effort. That is where the Yoga Shastra says, Tivra Samveganam Asanna. Those who are intense in their effort gains fast. So to gain the realization, to gain the status of no mind, as Bhagavan Nityananda says, Jnanis have no mind. To gain the status of a Jnani, you have to make rigorous practice, put all your energy in that, and then one fine moment it happens that the master feels compassionate. Ahai duka kripa sindhu. The master feels compassionate and pushes you inward. That push is called Guru Kripa. When that push happens, what you've been calling mind becomes your greatest friend. Up to that time, your mind is tricky and dangerous, an illusion that can topple you down. But when Chitta Shuddhi happens and the master's push happens, the mind becomes the greatest friend. It turns within and fast goes into the sun of knowledge, realization, and disappears. And then you remain just as the Atma, and you are revered as a master. So that is why Bhagavan Nityananda says, masters have no mind. In the first sutra, Bhagavan Nityananda clearly states that jnanis have no mind. With this, we end this session. We'll meet on Wednesday. Om Namah Shivaya.